You ever walk into a place thinking you're about to do something good, make a difference, and end up stumbling into the ugliest truth about your own life? That's what happened to me the day I walked into Golden Years Nursing Home with a fat donation check in hand, feeling pretty pleased with myself. Please, sir, she can't stay here anymore. She's causing too much trouble for the other residents, the head nurse pleaded, practically dragging this tiny, wiry black woman down the hall, her wild gray hair and hospital gown making her look lost. But her eyes, God, her eyes were sharp as broken glass. I paused mid-signature. I'm not sure why. Call it a chill, call it a memory I didn't know I had. But I just blurted out, "What's going on here?" The nurse, with that fake sympathy that comes from too many years in the job, sighed and said, "Oh, that's Rosa Johnson in 247. She's got advanced dementia, keeps talking about some son who never existed. She swears her boy David grew up rich and successful, draws buildings all day, says he's coming for her." And man, my heart dropped, because suddenly I saw it. Her cheekbones, the shape of her hands, something that matched up with memories I hadn't let myself remember in years. She looked at me, and for a second, it was like the years peeled away. "David, my boy, you've grown so much," she whispered, and my legs actually shook. The nurse just laughed, embarrassed. She does that with every man who comes in. Thinks everyone's her imaginary son. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was gone, right back to a childhood I thought I'd buried. I could hear a lullaby, smell fresh cookies, feel small hands tucking me in. "Rosa." I tried her name on my tongue, and she started to cry. "You remember Mama Rosa, my love?" I'd always been told my old nanny left when I was 5, that my real family, my adoptive parents, had given me everything I needed, and I never really questioned it. But suddenly I realized, staring at her trembling hands, my life might have been built on a lie. "How did you end up here?" I asked, voice shaking. The nurse cut in. She didn't want this conversation. But I pressed, and Rosa squeezed my hand, whispering how they'd said I'd be better off without her, that she wasn't good enough to raise a white family's child, that they'd send her to jail for kidnapping if she didn't disappear. Something snapped in me right there. That cold, hard sense of betrayal took root, and I swore to myself, someone was going to pay for stealing 30 years from the only person who'd ever truly loved me. Over the next 3 days, I canceled every meeting I had, sat at her bedside for hours, piecing together my real childhood out of her fractured memories. She remembered the pancakes I liked, Mickey Mouse-shaped, always with extra syrup. She told stories about the boy who built castles in the sky. My so-called parents used to tell me those were just childish fantasies. Now I knew better. I pressed Rosa for details. What really happened the day they took her away? She shivered, told me about a man in a suit, papers in hand, threatening her with jail. "White children need white families," he'd said. His name was Charles Morrison, big-shot adoption lawyer, known around Chicago for handling sensitive cases for rich folks. Apparently, he'd handed her $500 and told her to start over, but she never wanted the money. She just wanted me. The nurse, Patricia, her name was, kept telling me I was making things worse, that Rosa's got psychotic episodes. But I could see the fear in her eyes when I asked who'd paid for Rosa's care all these years. She clammed up, so I made a call. "Jake, dig up everything you can on Patricia. Wells, find out who pays her, who she's connected to." Within hours, Jake called back. "Boss, she's been getting $2,000 a month from an offshore account tied to Morrison and Associates, the same law firm. And get this, Rosa wasn't admitted for wandering the streets. She was sent straight from a private psych clinic, and your adoptive dad signed the order." I'm not gonna lie. I broke down. The man I called Dad not only ripped Rosa from my life, he made sure she'd never tell the truth. Kept her locked away, drugged out of her mind. The next day, I brought my own medical team. Dr. Foster, my best neurologist, examined Rosa for hours. The verdict? No dementia. Just years of trauma and meds meant to keep her silent. I cornered Patricia at the front desk. "How long have you known she wasn't sick?" She broke, trembling. "I just did what Dr. Morrison said. I have a family." "So did Rosa." I snapped, and it was destroyed for a paycheck. I gave her 24 hours to hand over every file. That night, as Rosa slept, I started digging. A conspiracy unraveled. Not just my family, but lawyers, doctors, clinics, all making money by erasing poor families and selling their kids to the highest bidder. And the files Patricia gave me? They were pure dynamite, falsified records, bank transfers, even notes about other victims. I brought in Michael Rodriguez, a lawyer who hates the corrupt elite as much as I do. We uncovered 15 other families, same playbook: poor caregiver, rich family, sudden mental illness, convenient adoption. Some nannies escaped, some disappeared forever. Rosa remembered one, Martha, who fought back and ended up dead. Overdose, they said. That's when I knew this was bigger than me. The next night, my adoptive father called. I hear you've been visiting that nursing home. Don't let yourself be fooled by a crazy woman. I played along, let him talk. But I knew he was scared. We'd rattled their cage. It was time for a real ally, so I brought everything to Prosecutor Janet Williams, a bulldog with a vendetta against crooked rich folks. She flipped through the files and said, "If half this is real, we're about to take down one of the biggest corruption rings in Chicago." "Why do it?" she asked. "Why risk everything?" I just looked at the skyline and said, "Because no amount of money makes it right to steal a mother's love, and if they did it to us, they did it to others." The next morning, federal agents stormed 17 homes and offices. Watching Richard Thompson, the man who'd called himself my father, get dragged out in cuffs, I finally felt something like justice. The press was everywhere. The evidence was bulletproof. Victims spoke. Families reunited. The whole city wanted blood. Even Margaret, my adoptive mom, called, begging for forgiveness. I told her, "You loved a version of me that fit your story, not the real me. You never loved me enough to tell the truth." Rosa moved into a real home, finally free, her garden full of sunlight and laughter. We set up a foundation to protect families, fund lawyers for every victim we could find. Meanwhile, my old parents lost everything. He got 25 years, she ended up in a clinic, and Patricia, the nurse, was blacklisted for life. Rosa watched me sometimes and asked if I pitied them. "I feel sorry for what they became," she'd say, "not for what happened to them. They had years to do the right thing." When a reporter called about a movie deal, I just said, "All proceeds go to the foundation. No profit from pain." 2 years later, the world's changed a little. The old nursing home is now a welcome center for families torn apart by greed and lies. Rosa bakes cookies for the kids. The prosecutors keep digging up new cases, and for the first time in my life, I feel whole. Rosa sits beside me in the sun, her hands warm in mine, and I know no power, no money, no revenge could ever compare to finally being seen, finally being loved for who I am. You know what's funny? My so-called family tried to steal 30 years from us and lost everything in the process. In the end, love and justice don't just heal old wounds. They turn them into something that lasts. And the people who try to break us? All they did was set us free. Now, before you scroll on, tell me, where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? Would you have done the same? Drop your thoughts below, because this isn't just our story, it's about every family that's ever been torn apart by lies and greed.